Lieutenant Mara Hale stepped off the transport ramp with slow, steady breaths, the dusty air of Valon 3 brushing against her face. She had been on many strange worlds in her years of service, but this one felt tense in a way she could not explain. The ground was dry and cracked, the wind carried a faint humming sound, and the sky had a dim violet shade that made every shadow look deeper than it should be. Mara kept her hand near her utility belt, not out of fear, but out of habit. She believed in being ready without showing it. Captain Lucas Ward walked beside her, checking the readings on his wrist device every few steps. Lucas was calm by nature, but Mara had known him long enough to sense when he was uneasy. He kept glancing at the horizon and the large rock formations that surrounded the valley where the meeting was supposed to take place. Mara knew he was thinking the same thing she was. The aliens who lived here, called the Draavak, were not known for trust. A small group of human officers followed behind them, carrying translation devices, scanners, and a small case containing the peace agreement that both sides hoped to sign. The humans were here to make sure the frontier border remained stable. Valon 3 was rich in resources, and both sides wanted a peaceful solution. But the Draavak were intense and proud. They respected strength more than words. Mara studied the valley as they walked. Strange stone pillars rose from the ground like natural towers. Some looked carved, others looked like they had grown from the earth itself. Glowing vines curled around them, giving off a gentle light that illuminated the path without the need for human lamps. Everything here seemed alive in a quiet, watchful way. Lucas slowed down as they approached a large flat stone in the center of the valley. This was the place the Draavak had chosen for the meeting. Mara could see movement on the cliffs above, dark shapes shifting between rocks. She knew they were being watched. She also knew the Draavak preferred to appear at the last moment with dramatic effect. "Stay alert," Lucas whispered without looking away from the cliffs. "Always," Mara replied. She did not grip her weapon. She did not even tense her muscles. She simply observed. That was her strength. She understood how people moved, how they breathed, how they prepared to attack. She could see danger before it happened. Some said she had fast reflexes. Others said she had something more. Mara did not care what people called it. She only cared about using it well. The ground vibrated slightly. A low rumbling sound echoed across the valley. The humans stopped walking. Mara lifted her eyes toward the far end of the valley. From behind a tall stone pillar, a group of Draavak warriors emerged. They walked with heavy steps, their armor made of dark metallic plates that glimmered under the faint light. Each warrior carried a long spear-shaped weapon on their back. Their skin had a rough, scaled texture, and their eyes shone with an amber glow. The lead warrior stepped forward. He was taller than the others, with broader shoulders and sharper armor plates. His gaze moved slowly across the human group until it landed on Mara. Something in his stare told her that he had expected her. Or perhaps he had sensed her confidence. "I am Karen of the Stone Line," the warrior declared in a deep voice. The translator device repeated his words in the human language a moment later. Lucas stepped forward and bowed his head slightly. "We come in peace, as agreed. We are ready to begin the negotiations." Karen did not bow back. He kept his eyes locked on Mara, then on Lucas, then back on Mara again. "Peace is a word your people use often," he said, "but words alone do not prove your strength." Mara felt the tension around her grow. She could hear the soft clicks of human rifle safeties being checked, though no one raised their weapon. She hoped they would keep them lowered. She knew the Draavak would see any sudden movement as a challenge. Karen took another step forward. "Our laws require that strength be shown before peace can be accepted. One human will be tested." His gaze settled on Mara again. "Her." Lucas stepped between them. "She is here as an officer, not as a challenger. We agreed this would be a peaceful meeting." Karen raised one hand. "Peace must be earned. We will not harm her. We will test her. If she stands firm, we speak. If she falls, there is nothing to speak about." Mara placed a hand on Lucas's arm and gently moved past him. "It is fine," she said softly. "We knew they might do something like this." Lucas whispered back, Be careful, Mara. I always am, she replied. She stepped forward until she stood across from Karen. The air between them felt heavier now. Mara could sense every small movement around her. The wind shifted. The warriors above tightened their grips on their weapons. Lucas's team took slow breaths behind her. Karen reached behind him and pulled out a Railbolt weapon. It looked like a compact cannon made of polished stone and metal. The front end glowed with a faint blue light. Mara knew from reports that Railbolts were powerful weapons. They fired small, high-speed projectiles strong enough to pierce thick armor. She waited silently. Karen lifted the Railbolt and pointed it at her chest. Mara felt her pulse slow. She focused on his shoulders, the angle of his elbows, the slight twitch in his hand. She could tell when he was going to shoot before he even moved his finger. The valley went silent. The Railbolt fired. The projectile shot forward with a sharp crack, glowing with blue energy. It flew through the air toward her chest faster than most eyes could follow. But Mara saw it clearly. She stepped slightly to the left, letting her weight shift just enough. Her arm moved up smoothly, not fast, but precisely at the right moment. Her hand closed around the Railbolt. The world seemed to freeze. Karen's eyes widened. The other Draavak on the cliffs leaned forward. Lucas took a half step as if he could not believe what he saw. The Railbolt hummed softly in her hand, its energy fading. Mara looked at it for a moment, then lifted her eyes toward Karen. She walked forward. Not fast, not slow. Calm. She reached out and placed the Railbolt gently into Karen's open hand, as if returning something he had dropped. Here, she said quietly. For several long moments, no one spoke. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. Karen stared at her, not with anger, but with something like shock, or maybe respect. Mara did not smile. She did not show triumph. She simply stepped back and waited. The silence of the valley felt different now. Something had changed, something big, and everyone there knew it. Lieutenant Mara Hale stood in the center of the valley, the fading hum of the Railbolt still echoing in her hand. She had handed the projectile back to Karen with calmness that felt natural to her. But she could feel how much it shocked everyone else. The air around her felt heavy, as if the world was trying to understand what had just happened. Karen slowly closed his hand around the Railbolt she had returned. His grip tightened, the metal plates of his armor shifting with a low scrape. His bright amber eyes studied her with a new intensity. Mara could not tell whether he was confused, impressed, or trying to decide what came next. Lucas and the human team stood frozen behind her. No one dared speak. Mara knew that even a single wrong word could turn the entire situation into a disaster. The Draavak warriors watching from the cliffs above began to murmur among themselves. Their deep voices blended into a rough chorus that rolled across the valley. Some sounded alarmed, others curious. A few seemed excited. Mara breathed slowly and evenly. She did not want to appear threatening, but she also did not want to appear weak. She kept her posture relaxed, her hands at her sides, her gaze steady. Karen finally spoke. His voice was quieter now, but it carried a deeper weight. You caught the Railbolt. His translator repeated the words into human speech, but the tone of shock was clear even without it. Mara did not answer right away. She knew the Draavak valued control. She needed to show she was not shaken. You fired it, she said simply. Karen blinked once, slowly, as if her calm reply added another layer to his confusion. Lucas stepped forward cautiously. This proves she meant no harm. It also proves we are here in good faith. He tried to keep his voice steady, but Mara could hear a slight tremor. He had known she was fast, but even he had not expected her to react like that. Karen turned his gaze to Lucas for a moment, then back to Mara. No human should be able to do that, he said. Not even your trained warriors. Our records say humans are strong of spirit, not of body. Yet you move as if time bends for you. Mara did not respond. She did not brag or deny it. She simply let him think. The wind blew softly through the glowing vines along the stone pillars. Their faint light flickered, casting shifting shadows across the ground. Karen finally stepped back. His armor rattled as he raised his arm and signaled to the warriors watching from the cliffs. The murmurs quieted instantly. Every Draavak I focused on him. This human has shown control, Karen declared. She has shown restraint. She has returned the weapon meant to test her courage. She has returned it calmly. She did not attack in return. She did not show anger. This is a strength we did not expect. The warriors exchanged glances. Some nodded. Others tilted their heads in thought. Karen looked at Mara again. You could have struck me. You did not. Why? Mara felt all eyes on her. She kept her voice level. We came here to make peace. There was no reason to fight you. Catching the Railbolt was not to show power. It was to prevent harm. Karen's eyes narrowed slightly. You trust yourself enough to stand before a weapon without fear? I trust my judgment, Mara said. Lucas stepped closer. We believe in stopping violence, not causing it. She simply acted to protect everyone here. Some of the Draavak warriors shifted uncomfortably, as if the idea of not answering force with force was strange to them. Karen studied Mara for a long moment. Then he lowered the Railbolt weapon and placed it back in its holster. The movement caused a ripple of tension to break through the valley. Mara could almost hear the collective exhale from both sides. But it was not over. A tall Draavak from the right cliff suddenly shouted something in their native tongue. His voice was sharp and angry. He pointed at Mara and then at the humans behind her. His translator device struggled for a moment before catching up. She cheated. No human can catch a Railbolt. It is a trick. They bring false warriors. The test is broken. Several other warriors nodded in agreement. The sound of shifting armor filled the valley. A few even placed their hands on their spear weapons. Mara held her stance. Her heartbeat stayed calm. Karen raised his hand sharply and the shouting stopped. His glare swept across the cliffs, silencing any further protest. There was no trick, Karen said firmly. I fired the weapon myself. I saw her movements. She caught it as it flew. That is no deception. That is skill. The tall warrior shouted again. Then she is dangerous. If she can catch a Railbolt, she can kill dozens of us before we draw breath. We cannot trust such a threat. Lucas raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. We are not here to threaten anyone. Commander Hale acted only to protect herself. We want cooperation, not fear. He looked at the tall warrior. We want to understand each other. Fear leads nowhere. But the warrior was not satisfied. He stepped to the edge of the cliff, gripping his weapon more tightly. Mara sensed the shift in his stance. His body leaned forward just slightly. He was preparing to leap down or perhaps attack from above. Lucas, Mara said quietly, without taking her eyes off the warrior. Lucas glanced at her. Yes. Tell the team to stay very still. Lucas nodded slowly. He turned to the officers behind him and whispered, Nobody move. Hands off weapons. The air grew hot with tension, but Karen acted before anything escalated. He slammed the butt of his spear-like weapon into the ground. A deep echo rang out, vibrating through the valley. Enough, he roared. Every Draavak warrior flinched, even the tall one. Karen stepped toward the cliff's edge, staring directly at the angry warrior. You question my judgment? The warrior hesitated. I question the danger she brings. Karen pointed at Mara. She stood before a Railbolt without fear. She chose not to harm me. She returned the weapon. That is honor. Do not mistake power for violence. The warrior tried to respond, but Karen cut him off with a sharp gesture. If you wish to challenge her, then step down and face her directly. But know this, she has already proven she is not here to fight. If you force her to defend herself, and you fall, the blame will be yours. A heavy silence followed. The tall warrior slowly lowered his weapon. He glanced at Mara one last time, then stepped back from the edge. Karen turned back toward Mara and Lucas. Your actions have changed the meaning of this meeting. You have shown control. Now we must speak of what comes next. Lucas nodded. We are ready. Mara stayed silent. She let Lucas handle the diplomacy. Her role for now was simply to stand steady. Karen studied her again, as if trying to understand the person who caught a railbolt as if it were nothing more than a tossed stone. "Your strength is not what I expected," he said quietly. "And your calmness even less." Then he took a deep breath. "Because of your actions, the council will agree to meet. But there will be more tests. There always are." Mara nodded. "We will face them." Karen gave a slow, respectful nod, something no human had seen from a Draavak warrior before. The tension in the valley eased, but the path ahead remained uncertain. Still, one thing was clear. Everything had changed the moment she caught the railbolt. The valley remained silent long after Karen's voice faded. The tension that had filled the air did not disappear. Rather, it changed shape. It no longer felt like the sharp edge of a weapon ready to strike. Instead, it felt like something heavy shifting beneath the surface, as if the world itself was adjusting to what had happened. Lieutenant Mara Hale could sense the difference. She could see it in the way the Draavak warriors moved, in the way they stared at her with wide amber eyes. Some watched her with fear, others with disbelief, and a few with something she could not quite identify: respect, maybe, or curiosity. Captain Lucas Ward stood beside her, keeping his posture steady even though Mara could feel his heart rate from a step away. Lucas had always been good under pressure, but this situation tested even him. He knew that if one thing went wrong, the entire mission would crumble. The human officers behind them shifted quietly, trying to remain calm. No one dared whisper. No one dared move without caution. The air felt thick, like the valley itself was holding its breath. Above them, on the cliffs, the Draavak warriors whispered among themselves. Their voices were deep and rough, creating a low humming sound that echoed across the stone walls. They kept glancing down at Mara, pointing toward the spot where she had caught the railbolt. Lucas leaned closer to her. "Mara, you all right?" "I'm fine," she said softly. He gave her a slow nod, though she could see the worry in his eyes. Karen remained standing at the center, gripping the railbolt in one hand. His expression was unreadable. He seemed lost in thought, as if he was reconsidering everything he had ever learned about humans. Finally, he lifted his head and spoke in a low, firm voice. "What happened here will not be forgotten. The test has been answered, but its meaning must be understood." His words rolled through the valley, and every Draavak warrior went silent. Karen pointed toward Mara. This human did not attack. She did not show fear. She caught a railbolt fired with full strength. She returned it calmly. This is not a sign of violence. It is a sign of control. The Draavak on the cliffs shifted, unsure of how to respond. One of the older Draavak near Karen spoke. His armor was darker and worn with age. "If she has such power, then she could defeat many of us. Her control may be strength, but it is also danger." Karen turned to face him. "The danger is only there if she chooses to use it." She chose peace. The older warrior frowned but did not argue again. Mara remained still, letting the conversation continue without interruption. She understood that her actions meant something different to the Draavak. To humans, catching a railbolt was impossible. To the Draavak, it was beyond impossible. It broke their expectations, their old beliefs, and their sense of superiority. Lucas stepped forward. "We did not come here to change your ways or threaten your people. We came to talk. We came to understand each other." Karen studied him, then turned his gaze to the cliffs. "You see? Their leader speaks without fear. He stands beside her even though she caught a railbolt. Humans trust their own. Perhaps we should see why." The younger Draavak warriors whispered to one another. Their voices carried a mix of awe and hesitation. Suddenly, a loud metallic clang echoed from the right cliff. A Draavak warrior, smaller than the rest and wearing lighter armor, stumbled forward. His foot had slipped on a loose stone. He regained balance quickly, but the noise broke the fragile stillness. All eyes turned toward him, and he froze in place. Mara glanced up and noticed something important. The warriors were uneasy, but they weren't preparing to attack anymore. Their hands were not gripping weapons tightly, they were holding them loosely. The tension in their movements was fading little by little. Humans had survived the test. Now the Draavak didn't know how to respond. Karen raised his voice. "We must take this to the council. They must see and hear what happened. This cannot end here. There is more to decide." Lucas nodded slowly. "We are ready to speak with your council." But Karen lifted one hand. "Not all of you, only the chosen. Only those who stood at the center of the test." He pointed at Lucas, then at Mara. The selection was clear. Mara noticed the human officers behind her shift nervously. One of them, a young man named Paul, whispered, "They're splitting us up. That's never good." Mara turned her head slightly. "Stay calm. Stay focused. Follow Lucas's instructions." Karen stepped closer to her. His heavy steps left shallow dents in the dust. "You must come. The council will want to see the one who caught the Railbolt. They will want to understand you." Mara nodded. "We will go." Lucas stepped up beside her. "Both of us." Karen gave a slow nod. "Both. But know this, the council does not think like us. They do not test like us. Their ways are older, more demanding." Lucas exchanged a brief glance with Mara. "We are prepared." The Draavak warriors began to shift, forming a pathway through the valley. Their movements were still tense, but the hostility had lessened. Some bowed their heads slightly as Mara passed, unsure whether to show respect or caution. Mara walked calmly, her steps quiet and steady. She could feel their eyes on her, studying her movements, watching her breath, as if trying to understand how a human could do what she did. Lucas walked beside her, keeping his shoulders back and his steps even. As they moved deeper into the valley, the atmosphere changed again. The wind grew quieter. The shadows grew longer. The stone pillars rose taller, glowing with more intense light. It felt like walking into the heart of something ancient. Mara sensed the weight of centuries in the air. Lucas whispered, "This feels like they're taking us somewhere important." "They are," Mara said. The valley walls narrowed ahead, forming a natural passageway that led toward the old council grounds Mara had read about in the mission reports. The Draavak used it for serious decisions, alliances, wars, and judgments. But no human had ever been invited there. As they approached the entrance, Karen stopped and turned toward Mara. "What you did today," he said quietly, "will echo through our people. Some will fear you, some will honor you, and some will try to test you again." Mara met his gaze without blinking. "We will face whatever comes." Karen nodded. "Then the council will see you now." The heavy stone doors ahead began to slide open, releasing a stream of cool air and faint blue light. Mara took a slow breath. Lucas straightened his posture, and together they stepped forward. Behind them, whispers followed. Ahead of them, the unknown waited, and the shockwaves of her single act, catching a railbolt midair, continued to spread through the Draavak world, changing it in ways none of them yet understood. Leo woke before the sun rose. His eyes opened slowly, and for a moment he did not remember where he was. Then the memories returned. The underground hall, the glowing tubes, the huge machines, the strange energy inside him, and the quiet voice that still echoed in his mind. He sat up on the stone bed. The air was cold, and the silence felt heavy. The old hall around him remained dim, as if it had been sleeping for many years. But something inside it was now awake. Leo could feel that clearly. He stood, stretched his arms, and took a deep breath. His body still felt strange. It was stronger than before, yet calm, like a river after a storm. He walked to the center of the hall where a circle of metal plates covered the floor. They were glowing faintly, reacting to him alone. "Why me?" he whispered to himself. No answer came from the hall. Not this time. Leo closed his eyes and tried to remember everything that had happened. The beam of energy, the pain, the silence after it, the way the machines had stopped, and the clear sense that he had changed in a way he did not understand. He did not know if this change was good or bad. But he knew one thing: his life would never return to what it was. After a moment he walked toward the broken door. The path outside was quiet, still carrying dust from the collapse. He stepped carefully around loose stones and reached the outer tunnel. The air here was lighter. He could hear the distant hum of the wind outside. He followed the tunnel until he reached the opening that led to the surface. When he stepped out, the world greeted him with early morning light. The sun was low, shining over the far hills, turning everything gold. The cold morning wind brushed against his face. For the first time since entering the ruins, he felt alive again. But he was not alone. A figure stood near a fallen tree, waiting in silence. Leo's breath caught as he recognized who it was. It was the same shadow figure he had seen before, the quiet stranger who had watched him from a distance, the one who never spoke but always appeared at strange moments. The figure stood tall, wrapped in a dark coat, with a mask that hid the face. Leo did not know if it was human or something else. The stranger lifted a hand slowly, not as a threat but as a calm signal to stop. Leo stopped. Neither of them moved at first. The air between them felt heavy with meaning, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Finally, the stranger spoke. The voice was low and rough, like someone who did not use speech often. "You woke the core." Leo's heartbeat quickened. "The core? What is that?" The stranger tilted his head slightly, studying him. "You survived the contact. That means the core chose you." Leo frowned. "I didn't choose anything. I didn't know what it was. I just reacted." "Survival is a choice made by the core," the stranger said. "Not by you." Leo stepped back a little. He did not like the feeling of being judged for something he did not understand. The stranger took one slow step toward him. "Listen carefully. Once the core wakes, the world changes. Its energy spreads. Others will sense it, and they will come." Leo felt something cold in his chest. Others? Who? Hunters, seekers, people who want its power, people who fear it, people who want to destroy whoever carries it. Leo stared at him. "You're saying they will come for me?" The stranger nodded once. "But why?" Leo asked. "I don't even know what I am now." "That is why you must learn," the stranger said. And quickly, a long silence followed. Leo looked down at his hands. They looked normal, but he could still feel a quiet energy moving under his skin. It was like a heartbeat that wasn't his. He swallowed softly. "Can you teach me?" The stranger took a deep breath, as if deciding something important. "I can show you the first step," he said. "But the path is long, hard, dangerous, and once you start, you cannot go back." Leo felt fear rising in him. But another feeling grew stronger, a feeling he could not ignore. It was the same feeling he had when he caught the railbolt in the air, the same feeling he had when the core energy flowed through him. It was the feeling that he was meant to face whatever was coming. He lifted his head. "I'm ready." The stranger turned and pointed toward the mountains in the distance. "Then follow me. We must leave before night. By tomorrow they will know." Leo did not ask who they were. He had a feeling he would find out soon enough. He looked back once at the old ruins behind him. Part of him wished he could walk away and forget everything. But another part knew the truth. His old life had ended the moment he stepped into that hall. He tightened his gloves and walked after the stranger. As they moved across the open fields, the wind grew colder, and clouds slowly gathered in the sky. It felt as if something far away had begun to shift. Something big, something dangerous. And Leo knew, whether he liked it or not, he was now part of it. Leo followed the stranger across the open land for many hours. The sun climbed high, then slowly moved toward the west. The world around them grew more quiet as they walked, and the wind carried the smell of dry grass and stone. Leo's legs grew tired, but he did not complain. He wanted answers, and he felt he could not stop now. The stranger walked with steady steps, never slowing, never looking back. His long dark coat moved with the wind, and the mask on his face made him look like a walking shadow. Leo kept watching him, trying to understand who, or what, this person was. But the stranger did not speak again for a long time, as if saving his voice for something important. At last they reached a narrow path between two long ridges of stone. The rocks on both sides were tall, like natural walls. The path led deeper and deeper, until even the sky seemed far away. The stranger finally stopped. "This place is safe," he said quietly. Leo looked around. The air here felt different, still, calm, as if the sound of the world did not reach this hidden place. "Safe from who?" Leo asked. The stranger turned and faced him. "From the ones who search for the core's awakening. They sense energy, but this path hides the signal." Leo swallowed. "You said others would come. Who are they?" "War bands, collectors, old orders, men who want power and men who fear it. The core's awakening is like a storm. Many will notice. Some will run toward it. Some will run from it." Leo felt a stone drop inside his chest. "And they'll all be looking for me?" "Yes," the stranger said, "because you are not only a survivor. You are a carrier." Leo froze. "A carrier of what?" The stranger raised his hand and pointed at Leo's chest. "The energy inside you, that heartbeat you feel that is not your own. That is the core thread. Only one in many thousands can hold it without dying." Leo looked down at himself. He remembered the flash of energy, the explosion of light, the pain that went through his bones. "I didn't want this," he whispered. "Power does not ask for permission," the stranger replied. The words hurt, but they were true. Leo clenched his fists. "So what now? What am I supposed to do?" "You learn," the stranger said, "before others find you." He motioned for Leo to step closer. Leo did, though he felt uncertainty rising inside him. The stranger did not threaten him, but the air around him felt dangerous, like standing near a cliff in the dark. The stranger lifted his right hand. "Listen, feel, do not think. Thinking gets in the way." Leo closed his eyes. At first he felt nothing, just the wind, the cold air, the quiet. Then, slowly, he felt the faint hum in his chest. The same hum that started the moment the core energy touched him. It was like a thin thread of light running through him. "Good," the stranger said softly. "Now breathe." Leo inhaled. He felt the energy shift slightly. The stranger continued. "Do not fight it. Let it move. Let it show you its path." Leo stayed still, and suddenly, he felt something pulse inside him. Not painful but strong, like a second heartbeat that matched the rhythm of the earth. His eyes opened without him meaning to. One of the rocks beside him began to glow faintly. Only for a moment, but enough to make Leo jump back. "What was that?" he asked, shocked. "The core thread follows your instinct," the stranger said. "You lost control for a moment, but even losing control reveals power." Leo's breathing was heavy. His hands were shaking. "I don't know how to control it." "That is why you train," the stranger answered. "If you do not learn, the thread will guide you instead of you guiding it." Leo took a step forward again. "Teach me." The stranger nodded once. Slowly, he moved his hand and pointed toward a flat piece of stone lying a short distance away. "Lift it." Leo stared at him. "With my hands." "No," the stranger said. "With the thread." Leo felt his heart pound. He looked at the stone. It was heavy, probably impossible for him to lift normally. He took a deep breath and placed his hand forward, not touching the stone but reaching toward it. He closed his eyes again and listened to the hum inside him, the quiet rhythm of energy. He tried to pull it forward like pulling a rope. Nothing happened at first. Then the energy inside him flickered. His hand trembled. The stone shook slightly, as if something pushed against it from below. Leo gasped. The stone fell still. "You felt it," the stranger said. "Yes, but I couldn't hold it." "You are not meant to hold it yet, only to touch it." Leo nodded, breathing slowly. They repeated the exercise many times. Each time the stone moved a little more. First barely a twitch, then a short slide across the dirt. Leo's body grew tired, but he refused to stop. The stranger watched with silent attention, correcting him only when needed. "Do not force it," he said. "Energy is not a tool. It is a voice. Listen to it." Hours passed. The sun set behind the ridges, and shadows filled the narrow path. But Leo kept trying. Finally, near nightfall, Leo exhaled, focused all his attention, and pulled the thread gently. The stone rose from the ground. It hovered slowly, shaking, but it lifted, to Leo's knee then higher. Leo's eyes widened. His breath caught. He almost lost focus. The stranger whispered, "Steady." Leo steadied his hand. The stone hovered for several long seconds. Then his strength faded and the stone dropped with a dull thud. Leo dropped to his knees. He was exhausted but smiling. "I did it," he breathed out. "You did," the stranger said. "And now your real training begins." Leo looked up. "Real training?" "Yes," the stranger replied, "because lifting a stone is simple, but surviving what is coming, that is not simple at all." Leo felt a chill run through him. "What is coming?" The stranger looked toward the dark horizon, where thin clouds of dust rose in the distance. "They have already started moving," he said quietly. "The first hunters. They travel fast. They can smell the core's awakening." Leo stood, despite his tired legs. "How long until they reach us?" The stranger replied without turning his head. "By tomorrow morning." Leo woke before the sun rose. The air was cold, and the narrow path between the stone ridges was still covered in deep shadows. He sat up slowly, his muscles tight from the previous day's training. The ground beneath him was hard, but he did not complain. His mind was already focused on what the stranger had told him the night before. The hunters would arrive by morning. The stranger stood nearby, quiet and unmoving. He seemed to blend into the darkness, as if the shadows accepted him as one of their own. When Leo got to his feet, the stranger finally spoke. "They are close." Leo felt a heaviness settle in his chest. "How close?" "Less than an hour." Leo looked toward the entrance of the rocky path. He couldn't see anything yet, but he could feel the tension in the air. The world seemed too calm, like the last breath before a storm. The stranger stepped toward him. "Before they arrive, you must complete the test." Leo frowned. "Test? You have touched your power. Now you must learn its limit, and your own." Leo's heart began to race. "Why now? Why not after the danger passes?" "Because if you do not complete the test," the stranger said, "you will not survive the danger." Leo felt the truth in those words. He nodded slowly. "What do I have to do?" The stranger motioned for him to follow. They walked deeper into the narrow stone corridor until it opened into a small circular space surrounded by high, jagged walls. The ground was smooth and flat, almost unnatural. "This place was built by those who carried the thread before you," the stranger said. "It is not a place of battle. It is a place of intention." The ground beneath them began to hum with faint energy. Leo felt the core thread inside his chest respond, like a chord vibrating with a matching note. "What do I do?" Leo asked. "You stand," the stranger said simply, "and you remain standing." Leo waited for more instructions, but none came. The stranger stepped back until he stood near the entrance of the chamber. Leo stood in the center, unsure. Then the stones around him began to move. Long pillars of rock slid upward from beneath the ground. They rose in circles, some near him, some farther away. Each one pulsed with thin lines of glowing energy. The light was pale and cold, almost white. The stranger's voice echoed through the chamber. "Do not run. Do not block. Do not attack. Let the energy test your intent." Leo tried to steady his breathing. The pillars began shifting, moving in slow circles around him. Some lowered, then rose again. Others tilted toward him, stopping only inches from his body. His instinct screamed at him to dodge, but he forced himself to stay still. One of the pillars swung downward faster than the others. It stopped just short of hitting his shoulder. Leo flinched, but he didn't move his feet. The stranger called out, "Your body responds with fear, but the thread responds to intent. If your fear takes control, the thread will flare, and the pillars will strike." Leo swallowed hard. He closed his eyes and tried to calm himself. He listened for the hum inside his chest. It was soft, barely there, but steady. "I'm not afraid," he whispered, though he was. The pillars moved faster. One passed close enough that he felt the breeze of its motion on his cheek. Another swept toward his legs, stopping only a breath away. Leo's heart thundered in his chest. He tightened his jaw. "Stay calm," he told himself. "Stay steady." The thread inside him pulsed, matching his breath. The pillars slowed. Leo opened his eyes. The energy lines were brighter now, but the movement had steadied. The chamber no longer felt threatening. It felt alive, watching him, waiting. He took a slow breath. "I'm not here to fight," he said softly. The pillars responded. Their movement became smooth, almost gentle. They circled him like flowing water. "Good," the stranger said from the edge of the chamber. "You understand." Leo kept breathing evenly. The fear faded. The hum inside his chest grew warmer, brighter. But then everything changed. One pillar suddenly shot upward and cracked in half. A burst of energy exploded from it, sending shockwaves across the chamber. Leo stumbled but managed to hold his ground. The stranger's voice turned sharp. "The chamber senses danger outside. The hunters are near. The test will intensify." More pillars cracked open, releasing arcs of white energy that struck the air around Leo. The ground trembled beneath his feet. Leo fell to one knee. His heart pounded. Sweat rolled down his forehead. "Stand," the stranger commanded. Leo pushed himself up. Another burst of energy hit the ground beside him. The pressure nearly knocked him sideways. "Stand!" Leo gritted his teeth. He steadied himself. The thread inside him surged. Light spread through his chest, down his arms, through his legs. He raised his chin. "I'm not going to break," he said. As if answering him, the pillars slowed again. The energy lines dimmed. The chamber grew calm. Then, one by one, the pillars sank into the ground until only the smooth floor remained. Silence. The stranger stepped into the chamber. "The test is complete," he said. "You held your intent. You did not let fear control the thread. You are ready for the next step." Leo was breathing hard, but he managed a small, tired smile. "And the hunters?" The stranger turned toward the entrance of the rocky path. "They have arrived." A distant, low howl echoed across the land. Leo felt a new kind of fear, not wild and crippling, but sharp and focused. "What do we do?" he asked. "We face them," the stranger said. "But you do not face them as the boy who survived the core. You face them as the one who carries it." Another howl, closer this time. "And they will not come alone," the stranger added. "They never do." The first howl faded into the night air, but its echo stayed inside Leo's chest. The stranger stood still, his mask turned toward the narrow entrance of the stone path. Leo could not see the hunters yet, but he felt them, like a cold pressure spreading through the ground. The stranger lifted one hand. "Stay behind me until I tell you otherwise." Leo nodded. He felt the threads pulse in his chest, soft but ready. He had passed the test, but his body still trembled from the strain. The stranger moved to the front of the chamber. The wind grew sharper, carrying dust and dry leaves with it. Leo sensed more than heard the footsteps approaching, light, fast, in uneven patterns, like predators running low to the ground. Then the first shape appeared. A tall creature stepped out from the shadows. It had long limbs, sharp joints, and dark skin covered in narrow silver markings. Its eyes glowed a faint blue. Two more emerged behind it, then three more. Soon the entire entrance was filled with silent, crouched figures. Leo whispered, "What are they?" "Trackers," the stranger said. "They follow energy. They hunt the strongest source they can find." Leo felt sick. "Me?" "Yes, but they will not reach you." The first tracker hissed and stepped forward. The stranger raised his hand, and a thin line of black smoke spread from his palm into the air. It curled and twisted, forming a barrier that shimmered like heated metal. The tracker stopped, tilted its head, confused. Another tracker sniffed the air and growled. The stranger spoke softly. "You five have come far, but you cannot take what is not yours." His voice echoed, not loud, but heavy, like stone shifting under the earth. The trackers moved back slightly. They recognized something in his tone. Something old. One tracker screeched. The ground shook. "They will not retreat," the stranger said. "Not while they smell the thread." Leo stepped forward. "Let me help." The stranger did not turn. "Not yet." The first tracker lunged. The stranger moved his hand sharply. The black smoke around him folded and struck the creature like a solid wall. It flew backward, crashing into the rocks. The others charged. The stranger walked forward calmly, almost slowly, but every movement of his hand shaped the smoke into strikes. Each wave sent a tracker flying. His power was precise, controlled, cold. Leo watched in awe but also in fear. The stranger was not like him. His energy did not glow or hum. Felt like a shadow with weight. Still, more trackers crawled down the ridge walls, their bodies twisting at impossible angles. "There are too many," Leo shouted. "There are always too many," the stranger replied. A tracker leaped from above straight at the stranger's back. "Behind you!" Leo yelled. The stranger reacted too slowly. He turned, but the creature was already descending. Leo moved without thinking. The thread surged through him like fire. His vision blurred at the edges. His hand shot upward, glowing with white light. A pulse burst from his palm. The tracker was thrown upward as if hit by a wave of force. It slammed into the wall above and dropped lifelessly. Leo's breathing was rough. The glow in his hand flickered but did not fade. The stranger stared at him, not with surprise, with recognition. "You awakened the second channel," he said. Leo didn't know what that meant. He didn't care. The trackers were still coming. Another jumped toward them. Leo raised his hand again. A stream of white energy burst from his fingertips and struck the ground in front of the creature. Stone shattered. Dust exploded outward. The creature screeched and fell back. For a moment, everything stopped. The trackers watched Leo, not the stranger. Him. They sensed the core thread. Not faint. Strong. The stranger stepped beside Leo. "You have a choice now," he said. "Show them fear, and they will tear you apart. Show them strength, and they will retreat." Leo looked at the creatures. Their glowing eyes shifted between him and the stranger. They waited. He felt the thread pulse. He felt the memory of the test, the pillars, the energy, the challenge. He remembered that the thread answered intent. He took a deep breath. "I'm not afraid," he said. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The thread inside him burned, bright and steady. Light spread across his shoulders and down his arms. The trackers hissed and backed away. Leo lifted his hand. The energy rose with it, forming a soft white glow that filled the chamber. The trackers trembled. Then they turned. One by one, they crawled back into the dark. Their movement was fast, almost frantic. None looked back. When the last one disappeared into the night, the land grew quiet again. Leo lowered his hand. The light faded. Exhaustion washed over him. He felt weak, like his legs might give out. The stranger caught his arm before he fell. "You stood," he said. "That is the first step toward forging the path you must walk." Leo sat on the ground, breathing heavily. "Will they come back?" "Yes," the stranger answered. "But next time they will bring others. Stronger ones. Smarter ones." Leo looked up at him. "How do we stop them?" "You cannot stop all of them," the stranger said. "But you can choose who stands with you." Leo frowned. "Who would stand with me?" The stranger lifted his mask slightly so Leo could see a pair of deep, steady eyes. "I will." Leo stared, surprised. The stranger continued, "And others will too. Not because they want the power you carry, but because they want the world it can create." Leo felt something shift inside him. Not power, but hope. The stranger stepped back and looked toward the horizon. "Tonight you forged the first bond," he said. "The bond of intent. The bond of strength. The bond of survival." Leo stood slowly, still tired but steady. "Is this what you meant by an alliance?" "Yes," the stranger replied. "But this is only the beginning. The world will come for you, Leo. some to fight you, some to follow you, some to protect you. Leo took a breath. And what do I do? You choose, the stranger said. And the choice you make will shape everything that comes next. Above them, the first light of dawn touched the horizon. The night of fear was over. The morning of alliance had begun. The sun had risen fully, casting warm light across the rocky ridges. Leo stood on the smooth floor of the chamber, feeling the weight of the core thread pulsing inside his chest. The events of the night still burned in his mind. The test, the pillars, the hunters, the surge of energy that had risen from him. Every moment felt like it had shaped him into someone new, someone stronger. The stranger stood beside him, quiet and calm. His eyes scanned the horizon, still alert to any movement in the distance. You did well, the stranger said. But this is only the beginning. Leo nodded. I understand. I feel different, stronger, but I don't fully understand it. You will, the stranger replied. Strength is not just the power to lift or to strike. It is the power to hold, to protect, to endure. You have touched the surface. Soon you will dive deeper. Leo looked at the path ahead. The world outside the chamber was wide and dangerous. The hunters might return, and others like them could appear. But for the first time, Leo felt that he could face it. The stranger stepped forward. We must move. There are places where the thread can grow, where you can train safely. But you must leave now, before the hunters return. Leo tightened his gloves, feeling the hum of the thread respond to his heartbeat. Where do we go? The stranger pointed toward a distant ridge. Beyond the mountains lies a sanctuary. If you know its location, there you will meet others like you, and you will learn what it means to carry the core thread. Leo's mind raced. Others like him? Could there really be more carriers? The stranger turned, watching him closely. Do not think of what comes next as easy. It will demand everything from you. Focus, control, and courage. But you are ready. They began to move across the rocky path, their steps quiet but deliberate. The valley below was waking with soft light, shadows shrinking as the sun climbed higher. Birds called in the distance, and the wind carried the smell of dust and dry grass. Leo kept glancing over his shoulder, half expecting the hunters to appear. But the path remained empty, calm. You are different from the ones before you, the stranger said after a while. Your mind is sharp, your body resilient, your intent clear. That is why the core chose you. Leo paused. Why me? The stranger did not answer immediately. He only looked ahead, then finally said, Because you are willing to face yourself. Others are not. Others run from the truth inside them. You do not. Leo swallowed. He remembered the pillar test, the bursts of energy, the feeling of standing calm as danger circled him. He remembered the hunters, the surge of the thread, the realization that he could affect the world with his own strength. I'll do whatever it takes, he said quietly. The stranger nodded. Good. That is the first rule. Acceptance. Accept the power, accept the risk, accept the responsibility. They walked in silence for a while. The mountains grew taller ahead, jagged and imposing. The sanctuary would not be easy to reach. Finally, the stranger stopped near a narrow pass. The walls rose high, casting long shadows across the rocky path. He turned to Leo. Beyond this point, few have traveled and returned. The sanctuary tests all who enter. The thread tests you there in ways you cannot yet imagine. Leo clenched his fists. Then we will face it. The stranger's eyes softened slightly behind the mask. Yes, together, they entered the pass. The air grew cooler, the shadows deeper. Leo felt the core thread pulse stronger, reacting to the energy of the mountains themselves. The path wound upward, sharp turns and uneven rocks challenging every step. But Leo's focus never wavered. He matched his breathing to the thread's pulse, steadying his balance, calming his thoughts. Hours passed. The sun moved higher, then began to tilt westward. Leo's legs ached, his muscles burned, but he pressed on. He knew the training ahead would be harder, but every step was preparation. Finally, they reached the top of a ridge. Below, hidden in the valley, was a cluster of structures that glowed faintly in the morning light. Stone towers, bridges carved from cliffs, and walls lined with glowing veins of energy. The sanctuary. Leo's eyes widened. It was beautiful and alive, a place built to honor and challenge the core thread. The stranger lowered his hand, letting the black coat fall back. "Here it begins," he said. "Here you will meet others like you, and here you will learn the truth of the core." Leo stepped forward. The wind brushed against his face, carrying the faint hum of the sanctuary. The energy inside him responded, stronger and warmer than ever. He felt ready. The stranger placed a hand on his shoulder. "Remember this: power without intent is chaos. Strength without purpose is danger. Keep your mind clear, your heart steady, and your choices wise. The world you shape begins now." Leo nodded. He took a deep breath, feeling the thread pulse through his chest like a heartbeat of light. As they descended toward the sanctuary, Leo realized that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, dangers, and tests beyond anything he had imagined. But he also knew he was no longer the boy who stumbled into the ruins. He was a carrier of the core, a force of intent, and the first steps of a new future had begun. The sanctuary waited, and Leo was ready to step into it.